I think one of the hardest things for people to understand about my chronic illnesses is how they affect me every day, largely because they're what people refer to as invisible illnesses. I live with disabilities and chronic illness. The first is called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. The second is called complex regional pain syndrome. My disabilities affect every aspect of my life, including my finances. My name is Britt Dorton. I'm 25 years old. I make $33,000 a year and I live in Chicago, Illinois. I work as a paralegal at a civil rights law firm. My salary there is about $20 an hour, and right now I'm working part-time while transitioning to full-time work. In addition to my job as a paralegal, I have a couple of different side hustles going on, both to supplement my income and also because they're things that I'm really passionate about. While I was born with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, my health didn't really get bad until I turned 19. There was a specific day that I can still remember where everything changed for me. I was at my old high school giving a speech. It was 5 days before I was supposed to move into college, and I heard a pop, and the next thing I knew, I was on the ground. We later found out that I had completely dislocated my left knee, and I had destroyed the ligaments inside it just by standing, and that injury caused me to develop complex regional pain syndrome. That day marked the beginning of probably the most difficult year of my life. I wasn't able to go to college, so I took a gap year. I ended up having 3 knee surgeries during that year. I had about 6 hours of physical therapy a day and just sort of learning how to navigate the world with constant pain and with a disability that impacted me in such a big way. I think of it as my grief day, and I try to find ways to sort of celebrate and hold space for all of the things that I'm feeling that day, because there is a sense of loss of this life that I had planned for myself and the future that I was looking forward to that was taken away from me. But there's also a sense of accomplishment and of pride when I look back and I see how far I've come from that very first day. I think it's definitely difficult to live in Chicago today on $33,000 a year. It's not impossible. I think it just forces you to budget carefully and really think about your finances. My budget lives in Excel spreadsheets. I have a very strict budget that I follow for every month. I set out the amount that I can afford to spend, which includes how much I want to be putting into savings, how much I am putting towards my loans or my debt, and then I budget for different categories, including food, medical care, transportation, things that I want and things that I need. My rent is a little more expensive than those of some of my friends or neighbors. For me, being chronically ill, I needed an apartment that had an elevator and that would afford me access to certain features for my health. Being strict about my savings can definitely be tough on the salary that I'm making. I have to be very disciplined every month with planning my budget around the amount that I want to put into savings. My approach towards my savings is I always have to put 10% in. If I'm able to put more in, that's great. Growing up, money wasn't something that was really discussed in our household. It was sort of this nebulous thing that our parents took care of. I think I started thinking more about my finances seriously when college application time came around. My parents didn't have a college fund or anything set up for me, and so we were kind of banking on financial aid and scholarships to be able to cover the cost. being 19 years old and trying to make sense of my insurance plan for the first time, having to pay attention to hospital bills and see how much different procedures would cost me and how much I could afford to pay at the moment. Having nights where I was debating, should I go to the ER? Can I afford to go to the ER? Do I have enough in my savings right now to cover that copay? Or is this going to be more debt that I'm going to have to pay off? Being forced to think about money in that way and being forced to think about my expenses, I think, in a way forced me to grow up quicker than some of my peers. But at the same time, it gave me a sense of responsibility for taking care of myself. I've been preparing for about 6 months to go to law school. My hope is to become a lawyer who focuses on prisoners' rights and disability rights. As someone who's chronically ill and disabled myself, working for my community and advocating for disability justice is something that's really, really important to me. I'm hoping to graduate with as little debt as possible, so I'm applying for scholarships, for financial aid, for different fellowships to offset the cost of law school. But in order to prepare for whatever that looks like, I've been focusing on saving as much as I can in my job. I am really fortunate to still be on my parents' insurance since I'm under 26. They have very graciously covered the premium for my health insurance, but I pay for all of my own medical expenses beyond the premium. So every surgery, every procedure, every admission, that's something that comes out of my own budget. It's very expensive to have a disabled body, to have a sick body. One of the hardest things is when I have to make financial decisions that force me to forego care for longer than I would like to, or to choose a cheaper treatment option that might not be as successful. But with the cost of medical care in the States, unfortunately, that's a decision that myself and many other people have had to make. Since student loan payments aren't required right now, I have shifted to putting the money that I usually budget for that towards my existing medical debt. I am definitely trying to find a balance between being disciplined with my budget and saving for the future, and also being able to enjoy things now. I think if living with chronic illness has taught me anything, it's that life is very unpredictable and it's important to enjoy it while you can. That usually looks like money that I set aside for hobbies. I love anything where I'm making things with my hands, baking, crocheting, painting. I also try to have money set aside to donate to organizations and causes that I care about, as well as to spend on making memories with friends when the opportunity arises. I want to definitely be in a place where when medical emergencies come up, I'm not having to think, can I afford this? I can just focus on getting the care that I need. When I'm having to make treatment decisions, it's not a question of, well, what's the cheapest option, but a question of what is going to give me the most relief and what's going to be the best for me. So I think for me, sort of financial success will just look like having that stability and having that security.